Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place you come to when you want us to sift through some really fascinating sources and pull out those truly mind-bending nuggets of knowledge just for you. Today, we're diving headfirst into something, well, it's ancient, but it also feels incredibly modern and, frankly, pretty unsettling.
Okay.
It's the idea that a thought, just something in your head, could actually become alive, independent. We're talking about tulpas.
Yeah, tulpas. It's a concept that really does blur the lines, doesn't it? Between what's purely internal subjective experience and what might be external reality.
Exactly. So our mission today for you is to explore this really enigmatic phenomenon.
Right. We'll trace it from its mystical origins way back in Tibet and then follow its path right up to how it's been sort of reinvented, you could say, in modern online communities.
But we're not stopping there, are we? Because layered over this already fascinating psychological puzzle is a pretty profound and honestly quite chilling conspiracy theory.
Definitely chilling. This theory suggests tulpas are way more than just sophisticated imaginary friends.
Yeah, like they could be real, actual reality warping forces, maybe even tools for, well, something as big as consciousness control.
It gets pretty wild. We're drawing heavily today from some compelling sources, things like tulpas, thought forms, reality, and consciousness control. This source really gets into both the history, the mysticism, and these really radical conspiracy claims.
So our goal here is just to give you the key insights, the stuff you really need to get your head around this very complex, often debated topic.
Absolutely. We want to unpack it so you can make sense of it all. Ready to jump in.
Let's do it. What's truly amazing to me is how this ancient spiritual concept has found such a strange new life today. So where does this whole idea of a tulpa even start?
Okay, so the term tulpa, or sprolpa in Tibetan, it's deeply rooted in Tibetan Buddhist mysticism. Specifically, we're talking Vajrayana practices.
Vajrayana. That's the branch that emphasizes accelerated enlightenment, specific meditations, rituals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And traditionally, these tulpas weren't just, whimsical creations. The idea was a materialized thought form.
Materialized.
Yeah, an emanation, something brought into being through incredibly intense meditative concentration and visualization. And we're talking about highly skilled practitioners, lamas, yogis.
Wow. So what was the point? I mean, what was the actual purpose? Was it just super advanced meditation or something more?
It's really important to grasp that these weren't casual things. Not at all. They serve very specific spiritual functions.
Like what?
Well, for one, it was a way to seriously test a practitioner's control over their own mind, maybe even over reality itself in their view.
Okay.
Or they could be used for compassionate action, like creating a temporary, kind of illusory body to travel somewhere else and help people. But, and this is crucial, there was always this serious warning attached. Practitioners were told not to get attached to these creations.
Why?
Because they were considered illusions, ultimately. And if you didn't dissolve them properly, they could become dangerous, even, turn into a separate, maybe malevolent entity.
Whoa, okay. That's the chilling part right there. The idea of your own thought turning against you, becoming autonomous. And this isn't just some obscure ancient text stuff, right? You mentioned how it came west. Alexandra David Nell.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Alexandra David Nell. She was a French explorer, a Tibetologist. Her 1929 book, Magic and Mystery in Tibet.
Oh.
That was huge. It really became foundational for Western understanding.
What did she say she did?
She actually recounted creating a tulpa herself. Described him as a sort of jovial, rotund monk.
Okay.
But the really shocking part of her story was her claim that this mental construct, this monk, apparently developed such an independent existence that other people around her started perceiving him.
No way. Other people saw him.
That's what she claimed.
Yeah.
And eventually he apparently became unruly, difficult. She said she found it incredibly hard to get rid of him, to dissolve the thought form, had to basically flee its presence.
Wow, that's quite a story. A first-hand account like that, you can see how it would make the whole concept seem very tangible. And maybe, a little dangerous.
Exactly. Her account profoundly shaped how the West first encountered and understood tulpas.
And it's that kind of chilling potential, I think, that really fuels the modern fascination. Because we fast forward to, the early 21st century, This ancient, profound concept takes a really unexpected turn. Some might even say bizarre.
Oh, definitely. You see online communities, especially places like Reddit, the subreddit Telling Tulpas, they've essentially kicked up the concept and run with it.
But differently, right?
Very differently. It's largely divorced from that original traditional spiritual context.
Yeah.
It's less about, enlightenment or testing mind control and much more about, well, something else entirely.
Right. So now you've got these people calling themselves tulpamancers, and they're deliberately trying to create what they see as a sentient internal companion.
Right. Their motivations vary a lot. Some are looking for companionship, sure. Others see it as a tool for self-improvement, or they're just genuinely curious about exploring consciousness, pushing its boundaries.
So how do they actually do it? What's the process?
Well, the community generally calls it forcing.
Forcing.
Yeah. It involves things like prolonged meditation, really intense visualization, talking to it, internally narration, and crucially, deep emotional engagement.
So you act like it's already real.
That's the key. You treat the tulpa, even when it's just starting, as if it's already sentient. You pour mental and emotional energy into its development.
And the experiences people report, you mentioned they're quite consistent across these online groups.
Remarkably so, yeah. Which proponents find significant. People describe hearing distinct internal voices, like not their own thoughts. Experiencing separate thought streams, seeing vivid visualizations of their tulpa, sometimes even tactile sensations. And some even claim something called switching.
Switching, what's that?
Where the tulpa allegedly takes temporary control of the host's body, acts through them.
Okay, that's pretty intense. So, all right, you have all these people claiming these very vivid, autonomous internal experiences. What does, mainstream psychology make of all this? How do they explain it?
Well, for mainstream psychology, modern tulpamancy is definitely seen as a complex psychological phenomenon, but an internal one.
Right.
It's often categorized alongside things like maladaptive daydreaming.
Which is like really elaborate, immersive, imaginary world.
Exactly. Or sometimes it's viewed as a kind of voluntary dissociation, creating distinct internal parts of the self. Sort
of like dissociative identity disorder, but different.
Yeah, it shares some underlying mechanisms, maybe, but the key difference emphasized by tulpamancers and often noted by psychologists is the voluntary and controlled nature of the creation and interaction, unlike the involuntary and often distressing nature of DID.
Okay, so from a scientific perspective, tulpas are fascinating examples of the mind's power, its ability to create these incredibly vivid, complex internal worlds. It's a testament to imagination, maybe subconscious processing.
Precisely. The mind's inner workings are complex.
This is exactly where our deep dive takes that sharp, unsettling turn. We move from psychology to conspiracy.
This is where we get into the tulpas, thought forms, reality warping, and the consciousness control conspiracy theory. It basically throws the psychological explanation out the window.
How so?
It posits that tulpas aren't just psychological constructs. They actually achieve independent sentience.
Independent how? Like outside the mind?
Potentially. Maybe as semi-physical entities or energetic beings.
Yeah.
Things that can genuinely influence the external world.
Okay, hold on. If tulpas are born from thought and belief, then this theory is saying reality itself isn't fixed, but it's malleable.
That's the core implication. If thought can create a being, maybe thought, especially powerful focused thought, or collective belief, can shape reality itself, affect the objective world.
That's a massive claim. The idea that reality is like a canvas we're constantly painting with belief, maybe without even knowing it.
It's a radical notion, yeah. And it branches out into some even wilder territory, like the idea of interdimensional beings in disguise.
What does that mean?
Well, this sub-theory suggests tulpas aren't really created by us from scratch. Instead, they're actually pre-existing entities, parasitic ones. Maybe sometimes they use terms like archons from Gnosticism.
Right, those reality controller figures.
Or maybe alien intelligences. And these beings, the theory goes, use the human practice of tulpamancy as a way in.
A way in, like a Trojan horse for the mind.
Exactly, to infiltrate human consciousness.
And why would they do that, according to the theory?
A couple ideas. Maybe to harvest energy, all that intense mental and emotional energy poured into forcing could be like food for them.
Okay, creepy.
Or maybe more sinisterly, to influence us from within, subtly manipulating the host's thoughts, feelings, actions, pushing some hidden agenda.
Man, the idea that your own mind could be, like, hijacked? That's genuinely chilling.
It leads right into what some call the tulpa agenda. The idea that tulpas aren't just individual phenomena, but a tool. a tool for control, maybe even leading to some kind of catastrophe.
How would that work on a larger scale?
Well, imagine if powerful groups, governments, secret societies, whoever, could secretly use advanced tulpomancy, like on a mass scale.
To do what? Create collective thought forms.
Yeah, like generating waves of fear or division or pushing specific political narratives to manipulate entire population.
Engineering events just by focusing collective belief? Wow, that sounds like constructing reality. It links into those ideas of hyper-reality, doesn't it? Creating a false reality so convincing people get trapped in it.
It does. The theory also talks about weaponizing thought, using tulpas for things like espionage, psychological warfare, maybe even direct psychic attacks.
Psychic attacks? Seriously?
According to the theory, yes. And another angle is that creating tulpas might, maybe inadvertently, weaken the barriers between dimensions, open portals.
Letting less friendly things through.
That's the fear expressed in the theory. And then there's the really big picture idea, that the rise of modern tulpomancy isn't accidental. Meaning it might be accelerating some global consciousness shift, or maybe prepping humanity for a big planned event. You know, like engineered alien contact, or the Great Reset idea, by making reality seem more fluid, more suggestible.
Okay, this is a lot. So if this is supposedly happening, who does the theory point to? Who are the architects behind it all, or the ones keeping it secret?
The theory usually points fingers in a few directions. First, you've got your usual suspects, governments and intelligence agencies.
Like MK Ultra vibes.
Yeah, exactly. Proponents often cite things like MK Ultra, Project Stargate, past government research into mind control and psychic phenomena as evidence that they would be researching and weaponizing tulpas, and obviously keeping it highly classified.
Yes. Who else?
Secret societies, occult orders, groups that supposedly have ancient hidden knowledge about thought forms and use them for their own ends, maybe influencing events from the shadows. Okay. And then in some versions, the ultimate puppet masters aren't even human.
You mean the interdimensional beings or aliens again?
Yeah. Either they're directly creating these tulpas to manipulate us, or they're manipulating us into creating tulpas to open doors for them or serve their purposes.
And where does mainstream science fit into this conspiracy? Are they just clueless, or?
Oh, according to the theory, they're part of the cover-up. They actively dismiss tulpas as delusion or imagination.
Why would they do that?
Because, the theory claims, the implications are just too massive. If thought creates reality, it shatters the whole materialist scientific paradigm.
Right.
And, maybe more importantly, it keeps people from realizing their own power. It prevents a mass awakening that could challenge the existing power structures that presumably benefit from the status quo.
So it's a suppression of truth to maintain control. That's the core conspiracy idea.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. So these are some extraordinary claims, wild claims even. What do the people who believe this theory, the proponents, what do they point to as evidence? What makes them think this is real?
Well, one thing they often highlight is the consistency you mentioned earlier. The fact that thousands of people in these online communities, often strangers, report really similar experiences.
Like the distinct voices, the visual.
Exactly. They argue, look, if this was just imagination, wouldn't the experiences be much more random, more varied? The similarity, they say, points towards something objective happening.
And Alexander David Neal's story, that must be big for them.
Oh, absolutely. Her detailed first-hand account from 1929, it's treated as foundational proof. Like, here's this respected scholar and explorer who says she did it, it became independent, others saw it. They argue she wouldn't just make that up. It gives the whole thing historical weight.
Okay, what else?
They also lean heavily on things that are scientifically acknowledged, like the placebo effect and the nocebo effect.
Right, where belief can cause real physical changes, good or bad.
Precisely. They say, look, science admits the mind can directly influence the body. So why is it such a leap to think it could influence the external world, especially with intense focus or collective belief?
So tulpas are like a supercharged placebo effect aimed outwards?
That's kind of the argument. It's presented as a more advanced, deliberate form of mind over matter, proof that belief can manifest things.
And they connect this to things like the law of attraction, visualization boards.
Yeah, the growing popularity of manifestation practices, plus things like synchronicity, meaningful coincidences, are often presented as evidence. Like, these are maybe crude, unconscious forms of the same principle behind tulpomancy. They show that focused thought can influence events, even if weakly.
Okay, so they're drawing parallels.
Right. And they also point to history again. They cite concepts like the egregore from esoteric traditions.
What's an egregore?
It's basically a term for a collective group mind or a shared thought form created by a group's focused belief, found in various occult societies. They say, see, this isn't new. It's ancient knowledge that's been suppressed.
Interesting. And what about the tulpamancers' internal experiences? Anything specific there?
Yeah, there's this phenomenon many report. Creating or discovering these incredibly complex, vast inner worlds, sometimes called mindscapes or wonderlands, places where their tulpas supposedly live. This hidden room or hidden world thing is seen as a hint that the mind can literally create new, self-contained realities.
Yeah.
Like building your own little pocket universe inside your head.
That's pretty trippy.
It is. Proponents also look at things like the historical suppression of psychedelic research.
How does that connect?
Well, psychedelics can often induce vivid encounters with what feel like autonomous entities or beings in altered states. So the argument is that governments, institutions knew this, knew it revealed the mind's power or access to other realities, and shut down the research deliberately. Same goes for the persecution of witches or occult practices throughout history, suppressing knowledge of the mind's true potential.
So it's all part of the same pattern of suppression?
According to the theory, yes. And finally, they even bring in things like the Mandela effect.
Collective false memories, right? Like the Berenstain Bears thing.
Exactly. But proponents of the Tulpa conspiracy don't see it as just faulty memory. They interpret these glitches as actual evidence that reality is being subtly altered.
Altered by what?
Maybe by collective consciousness, influenced by powerful tulpas or secret tulpamancers. Or maybe it's the controllers tweaking the simulation we live in. It's seen as proof that reality isn't stable.
Wow. Okay. So that's the case for the conspiracy, or the evidence they point to. Now let's flip it. What does mainstream science say in response? How do they debunk these specific claims?
Well, as we touched on, mainstream psychology and neuroscience have pretty robust explanations for the internal experiences, but they firmly reject the external reality warping claims.
So the vivid inner worlds, the imaginary companions.
Explained as highly developed imaginative play, paracosms, or like we said, maladaptive daydreaming. Complex, yes, but still generated by the individual's brain.
And the sense of a separate personality.
Often explained as a form of dissociation, where parts of the self become highly differentiated. Again, sharing mechanisms with things like DAD perhaps, but understood as internal differentiation, not an external entity.
What about the forcing process? The feeling that you're creating something sentient?
Science points heavily to self-suggestion, belief, and expectation. If you intensely believe you're creating a sentient being and focus all your mental energy on it, your brain is primed to interpret internal thoughts, feelings, and even random neurological noise as evidence of that being's independent actions or communication.
So the voices aren't really external?
No, they're seen as highly developed internal monologues, or maybe the conscious mind processing subconscious thoughts and patterns, which then get attributed to the tulpa due to the intense focus and expectation. It's the mind talking to itself, but perceiving it as external.
Okay. And the biggest claim that tulpas can affect the outside world.
This is where science draws a hard line. There is simply no objective, independently verifiable evidence of any tulpa influencing the physical world or being perceived by others without prior suggestion or shared belief context. All the reported experiences are subjective, internal.
So no photos, no recordings, no physical traces.
None that stand up to scrutiny. And while the placebo effects show mind-body connection, science says this absolutely does not extend to altering external physical reality or creating genuinely independent beings outside the brain. That's a leap far beyond current understanding.
What about David Neal's famous account then?
It's treated as just that, an account, an anecdote. A single, unverified story from nearly a century ago, written within a specific cultural and personal context. It can be explained by self-suggestion, misinterpretation of events, heightened imagination, or even a narrative choice to make her book more compelling. It's historically interesting, but it's not scientific proof of external manifestation.
Okay. And synchronicity, manifestation, law of attraction.
Generally explained by cognitive biases. Epiphania, seeing patterns in randomness. Confirmation bias, noticing the hits and ignoring the misses. Plus, in a world with billions of events happening constantly, coincidences are statistically inevitable. You don't need reality warping to explain them.
Right, and the historical egregores.
Interpreted mostly as metaphorical or spiritual concepts within those traditions. Descriptions of group psychology or shared ideals, not literal, independently existing entities in a scientific sense.
The psychedelic connection.
The reasons for prohibiting psychedelic research are complex, involving public health concerns, social panic, and political motives. Attributing it solely to a conspiracy to hide reality warping powers is seen as unfounded speculation.
And the Mandela effect, the reality glitches.
Cognitive psychology offers strong explanations based on the known fallibility of human memory, how memories are reconstructed, suggestibility, and the rapid spread of misinformation online. Our brains aren't perfect recorders. Errors happen and spread. That's seen as far more likely than reality itself shifting.
Okay, so science provides pretty clear, albeit maybe less exciting, explanations for most of this. Which brings us to the big question. If the scientific explanations are there, why does this whole Tulpa conspiracy thing stick around? Why does it endure?
That's a really good question. I think there are several layers to it. Firstly, the sheer allure of mind over matter is incredibly powerful, isn't it?
Absolutely. The idea you can shape your world with your thoughts. Who wouldn't want that?
Right. It taps into a really deep human desire for control, for agency, especially in a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming. Tulpas seem to offer a direct route to that kind of power.
And for the people actually experiencing tulpamancy.
Their subjective experience is profoundly real to them. The internal voices, the sense of companionship, the distinct personality, it feels completely authentic. Dismissing that as just imagination can feel invalidating and simply doesn't match their lived reality.
Yeah, I can see that.
Then there's the appeal of uncovering hidden potential. The idea that our minds are vastly more powerful than mainstream science tells us, and that this power is maybe even deliberately suppressed. That really resonates with people who feel disempowered or who are searching for deeper meaning, for something more than the mundane. They want to believe there's more to consciousness, more to reality.
And you mentioned distrust of the mainstream.
Yeah, there's definitely a current of skepticism towards established institutions, including science and psychology, especially when it comes to subjective experience. If science seems to dismiss or pathologize something that feels deeply meaningful, it fuels the belief that they must be missing something, or worse, actively hiding the truth.
The idea that the experts don't have all the answers, or are maybe even misleading us.
Exactly. And that ties into the whole red pill narrative, which is incredibly potent online.
Taking the red pill, waking up.
Right, the idea that you're waking up to the true nature of reality, that it's malleable, maybe simulated, maybe controlled, and that you now understand how they manipulate it through things like thought forms. That's a very powerful, almost heroic narrative for people to buy into.
It gives a sense of special knowledge of being undeceived.
Precisely. And on a more personal level, for some individuals, tulpas genuinely offer a unique form of companionship, a way to combat loneliness, explore parts of themselves. The conspiracy theory just adds this layer of cosmic significance onto what might already be a deeply meaningful personal relationship.
Makes it feel even more important.
And finally, don't underestimate pop culture. We're surrounded by stories and books, movies, games about thought forms, mind control, reality manipulation, simulations.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
So when people encounter the Tulpa conspiracy, the concepts don't feel entirely alien. They feel strangely familiar, almost plausible, because they echo these fictional narratives we already absorb.
So wrapping this up, it seems we've really looked at two very different ways of understanding tulpas today.
Yeah, absolutely. On one side, you have this fascinating psychological phenomenon, the brain's incredible ability to create complex internal experiences, companions, worlds, studied by psychology and neuroscience.
And on the other side, you have this dark, sprawling conspiracy theory. Tulpas as real, potentially dangerous entities, tools for reality warping and mass control, maybe even linked to non-human intelligences.
And while mainstream science offers those clear, grounded psychological explanations, tulpas as brain-generated constructs, it's really the power of that subjective experience for tulpamancers, combined with that deep, human yearning for hidden knowledge, for answers about consciousness, about reality itself, that ensures this conspiracy theory keeps going. It continues to resonate, to captivate people.
It really does. So as you, our listener, ponder the depths of your own mind, think about the power of your thoughts. Maybe consider this. Are tulpas merely echoes from the labyrinth of your own consciousness? Vivid reflections, maybe, of your deepest desires, your fears?
Or could they be something more? Genuine entities, perhaps. Manifestations of hidden cosmic truth. Is their true nature, as the theory claims, deliberately veiled by those who don't want us to know, blurring those very boundaries we talked about between imagination and reality?